Hello everybody, and thanks so much for coming this afternoon to our, I think, third About Music Education lecture of the semester. I'm not going to say very much now, I might say something later, but first I would just like to introduce you to Brad Fuller, who's also brought along his colleague and co-teacher, and you'll discover that that has a completely different meaning with their model, Peter Orenstein. Now, I've had an opportunity to work a lot with Brad and Peter over the last couple of years through various reasons, the big one being that it was the school that I went to film for my MOOC about music education in the 21st century, and I used them as my high-tech model school. So that's the sort of little bit of background and introduction, but I think you'll find what they've got to say both entertaining and provocative. So please welcome Brad and Peter.
Thanks, James. I'm Brad, and that's Peter.
Hello.
Although in our classroom, the students call me Mr. F and Mr. O, but because our roles are so intertwined, generally we answer to either of those. So whichever, so you don't need to remember Brad and Peter, will answer to either. You can call me Mr. F, Mr. O, or any combination of those. All you need to know is we're here for you. Okay, we're here for you too, James. All right, over to you.
So, don't shoot the syllabus. I think we could spend all day and probably a whole book talking about the syllabus. And today we'd like to just cast our minds back in time and focus on a particular syllabus, the Music 1 syllabus for New South Wales. And we think that it offers you great insight, and for us, it gets us jazzed. Just this morning, Brad came into work and I was sleepy, but he was all fired up because he's just been thinking about the syllabus for the whole weekend.
You would have thought.
And so we thought we'd share that with you, our insight, our perspective on New South Wales syllabus. We thought also we'd show you what our school looks like, and in particular what our space looks like up in Terry Hills.
It's a long way from here. Would you like to take us there, Peter?
So it's in the Northern Beaches, it's in the sticks. If you drive out there, you'll notice that we have horse poo for $2 a bag available. And about a few years ago now, the principal blew up the entire middle of the school. And you can see here from an aerial point of view, the central part of our school now, which is based upon the Barcelona airport. And our principal walked through the airport and noticed people working in little cave spaces, in little nooks and crannies, but also in open plan spaces as well. And if we pause right there, you'll notice that in between the leaves of the gum trees is our music space. And Brad just told me before that he spoke in Glasgow. He said you can go from fine dining, walk through the gum trees, and you've entered the music industry. And they hated him for saying that. But.
Yeah. Al fresco dining, I believe I said. Al fresco dining. A disclaimer. Peter?
Yes, so there's 7 points in the syllabus where they use the word must, and 2 of them are in this paragraph. So the Board of Studies owns the copyright on all the syllabuses. Schools may reproduce this syllabus in part or in full for bona fide, etc.
So I'd like to think this is bona fide, and so that makes me feel quite good that we're involved in bona fide study this afternoon. And can we all just pause for a moment to acknowledge the Board of Studies copyright? Thank you, Peter.
So as I said before, Music 1, Stage 6 syllabus. I think it's important to note that this document is 16 plus years old. If we zoom in, you can see in April 2000, there was a release note in volume 9, number 2. It wasn't created there, it was just a release note. It was created before that. And so let's take a time machine backwards and just think about 2000, 2001, what was happening at the time. And this
We've got the DeLorean for you today because we think it's really important to go back and get into the minds of the syllabus writers and see. Are you ready? Let's go.
in 2001, early 2001, iTunes for Mac was invented, released. The iPod, Napster wasn't even around after 2001. And you had the evolution of the iMac, which I saw in my teenage years, and I looked upon PC users with jealousy. The explosion of the DAW, yet Ableton in 2001, later GarageBand. And this was all after the syllabus. And so it's important to think about how awesome the syllabus is, thinking that they didn't even have these tools available for them. They weren't thinking about these tools. Yet, if we have a different perspective on it, we can use the words that they created pre-21st century that, in a light that's still relevant today.
Speaking of the past, set the scene for us, young Peter. How old were you in 2001?
I was 11, and I remember fresh off the back 2000 Olympics, heading up number 2, Strawberry Kisses, Nikki Webster, would have been a hit of mine. Furthermore, I remember dancing in my lounge room to Bob the Builder, Can We Fix It?
Yes, we can.
And I still don't think I've got Kylie Minogue out of my head.
Interestingly, probably Strawberry Kisses didn't have the legs that we thought it would at the time. It's not on high rotation so much, which is a bit of a shame, probably as a result of cultural cringe or something like that. But anyway.
I thought Smooth Criminal was actually composed by Alien Ant Farm for a good portion of my life.
Yeah, so how old were you?
11.
So this is post-syllabus. The syllabus has already been written, and the first HSC was being delivered as Bob the Builder is in his ascendancy. So, is that a problem? Well, what if we can read the old syllabus from last century with new glasses? And I think, so sure, it's a straight or, but can we bend it to fit our purposes? So, here's a quote. I don't work for the syllabus works for me. That was Brad Fuller at the Sydney Conservatorium in 2016, and you were there for it. So, what if we didn't serve the syllabus, but the syllabus served us? Here's a model. What if we thought about our students first, then we thought about our community, then we thought about our teacher abilities, and then we went to the syllabus? That's how we get the win, I believe. But so often teachers start with the syllabus, and as I talk to teachers, they say, I'd love to, etc., but the New South Wales syllabus is just so terrible. So I think let's start with those 3 interest groups, students, communities, and teachers, then look at the syllabus, but your mindset is, how can the syllabus serve us? And so when we think about our students and our community and our teachers, this is the vision of music. That's our vision of music in our community, just one of them. And so we think that lots of people are reading the syllabus like this. And when you read the syllabus like this, with your 20th century glasses on, although these are quite stylish, these Peters, you can't see the forest for the trees. So what we're going to do today is take off the glasses and put on fresh 20th century ones. These are some that I got not too long ago. Check this out. All of a sudden. And then you can do this, and you can do this. Just gives us all sorts of new ways of thinking about the syllabus. What do you think? So I have all this new perspective, and I need all this new perspective because, check it out, the world has changed. We have iPods now. In fact, we don't really have iPods anymore, do we? Wow, that's pretty heavy. The 4 C's. So, can we take a syllabus that was invented before the 4 C's were even talked about, and teach in a 21st century way? But wait, just as many of us were getting our heads around this, interestingly, the 4 C's, one of the great promoters of all of this 21st century thing is p21.org, which interestingly was founded after the 21st century began. So it's typical education. We're behind the 8 ball from the get-go. 21st century comes and people go, whoops, we should have had a plan for this. It's okay, let's get a .org and we'll work it all out as we go. So now we have 4 C's, but then they thought, you know what, maybe we need some more buzzwords. So here's a Wordle that I created, which didn't exist when the syllabus was written. Look at all of these words. So we took the 4 C's and we took all of these 21st century buzzwords and we invented a machine. And it's called Brad and Pete's 21st Century Syllabus Tester. And so what we're going to do for the next few minutes is we're going to put the Music 1 syllabus into our syllabus tester and see if it's fit for purpose for the 21st century. Ready? Alrighty, so we're going to come back from our time machine, but we forgot to put a slide in. So imagine we're in a DeLorean and we come back and it's the current day. Alright, have a look at this. This is a page from our syllabus, and I've highlighted some things. The purpose: provide students with the opportunity to acquire. So this is a revolutionary statement, and I call them the founding mothers and fathers. So I think the founding mothers and fathers, when they wrote this, were pretty awesome. So nothing in that statement says I have to tell anybody anything. That's kind of cool. It's pretty revolutionary. All I have to do, the purpose of the syllabus, is to provide students with opportunity. The next part, also quite revolutionary. Encourage the desire. And that's interesting. So encourage the desire would suggest that there's already a desire inherent in the student. Our job through the syllabus is to encourage. And then watch this part. Continue learning in formal and informal. That's pretty challenging, I think. Let's go down to the second last line. For many. For many. I get so convicted every time I read the syllabus. For many. A pathway to the music industry. Not just the person who gets a band 6, but for many. So that would suggest that there'd be more people being prepared than not, wouldn't it? Or maybe, at least it would be many. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the aims. Have a look at these. This is pretty amazing from the founding mothers and fathers. Evaluate critically impact of technology. How about this one? Develop personal values. So I'd like now to put that through our machine, and turns out that is 21st century ready. Good job, founding mothers and fathers. Let's go on. This is revolutionary, right? Who would have thought our syllabus wasn't as bad as we thought? And don't forget, this is only possible with my 21st century glasses. With the old glasses, couldn't see. Turns out once you've read it with the... here's the other cool thing. Once you've read it with the new glasses, you don't need to keep wearing them all the time. You can just see it. All right, have a look at this. Here's the next page. Actually, let's go back. So this is from learning experiences. I want you to think about music classrooms you've been in the last 12 months, 2 years. And think about that. And this is where the syllabus is coming from. Let's have a look at those words. Improvising, discussing, innovating, creating, recording, experimenting, responding, observing, analysing, discriminating, evaluating, manipulating. Think about the classrooms you've been in and think about those words. Is it the syllabus's fault? Is that happening in the classrooms you're visiting or not? I don't think we can blame the syllabus. Let's find out. The syllabus tester says it's okay. But wait, there's more. Key competencies. What did the founding mothers and fathers have to say about? Collect, analyse, organise, communicate, information, planning, organising. How about this one? The big one, working with others and in teams. That's pretty heavy. It suggests that sometimes we can work with others, but it's not a team. And that's okay. How about that? So it's okay for you to put students together, for them to work together, and it not be a team. It's okay. It's in the syllabus. You're allowed to give that a try. But ideally, and in teams, they would work in teams as well. We call that, of course, in our 21st century buzzword, we call that collaborating. So as far as the machine is concerned, that passes the 21st century syllabus test. But there's more. Now we're getting into the meat of the syllabus, talking about the concepts. How about this for a bombshell? Ba, ba, ba. It's not an end in itself. Whoa. That's heavy. Think about the classrooms you've been in, where the study of oral is a book in itself. That's pretty heavy. The concepts have application. Stop the clock. But wait, there's more. Students should apply. That's not just for McDonald's after school, but I think that's talking about applying the concepts of music to the appropriate musical context. How about this one? So where are we from? Learning experiences, performance. Whoa, I almost teared up when I read this one. In fact, just then, I got a lump in my throat. Check that word out. Extensive. Oh yeah. Fostering. There's a 21st century concept. We should foster things by providing extensive performance opportunities. Let's think about classrooms again. Are there extensive performance opportunities in those classrooms? And then how about this one? According to individual, there's 3 words here, needs, interests, abilities. I still get excited every time I read that. And convicted. Moving on, let's have a look at composition. I'll give you an example here, and I think you can back me up. So many times when teachers see the word composition in syllabi, they think that means I have to get some manuscript paper out and students have to write an 8-bar melody. And many classrooms I've been in never get past the idea of let's write an 8-bar melody and maybe have a crack at it on the old Orff xylophone, if you're lucky. Do you agree? Have you seen that?
Yeah, so I think if you've gone through tuition, at some point you would have had to create a lesson plan and you would have created a composition task that's similar to that. And later in the syllabus, you'll see the word integrated. And that's a big one because it's not treating the concepts or composition or any of these specific things like melodic, non-melodic, ostinato patterns as an end in itself. It's treating them just as little building blocks to a greater means.
Now, so for many of us, we read that and think, well, of course I don't do that. I use a notation package. That surely must make that okay. I guess it's okay. But just hold that thought for a minute because, look, further on in composition, have a look at this. This blew my brains out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 words there before anyone mentions notating. That's a bombshell. Experimenting, improvising, arranging, structuring, before we get to notating. How many places do you go where it starts with notating and then you never actually get onto that other stuff, which seems to be important? There's no asterisk here, this is in order of importance. but it'd be good if it was. Down the bottom, the very last one, is talking about using different types of technology. It's right at the bottom. But so often now, people start with a well-known notation package and finish there. It's at the bottom. All right, next. We're just getting warmed up. I thought that was worth looking at again. Interesting, I don't know if that might be me, but notating doesn't even seem to be very bold. Let's have a look. Syllabus says it's okay. Our syllabus tester.
Let's try to test it.
So far it's doing pretty well. It's getting I don't know if you can feel it back there, but it's actually getting a little hot here from all of that testing. But I'm keeping a close eye on it. All right, let's have a look at context. Now this is one of the only places in the syllabus of the 7, 3 musts are in the must acknowledge the Board of Studies, and some other musts are in the contexts. So students must study music in context. I'm okay with that. There it is. Now, this is the only place that we can find a must that is of any importance. Why don't you read that one, Steve?
Yeah, so students' experience of the chosen topic must reflect an integrated study across the learning experiences. I think if you drew back to the learning experiences, a lot of those, like Brad has mentioned, are 21st century buzzwords now. And I think if you try to divide up music into these specific contexts, then we're going to get into some trouble. And what it's saying here is, okay, if we had a fresh perspective of integrating all these learning experiences across some of these contexts, then how powerful is that?
I think that might be called project-based learning in our current world, in which case I'm pretty sure we'll get a tick. Hooray. All right, some crackers to come. Watch this one. Teachers are encouraged. Hooray! So part of our role today here, along with the syllabus, is to encourage you. Encourage you to look at the syllabus with your 21st century glasses and see these new things jumping out at you. Teachers are encouraged to use a full range, not just a narrow range or just 1 or 2 bits, a full range of technologies as available to them. That's pretty good, as available to them.
They didn't know what that meant, by the way. They had their own technology, but now it's a lot different. And so I think that means a lot more for us now. Full range. That's pretty powerful.
So when the syllabus was written, it would have meant those metronomes that swing like that. That would have been encouraged. There you go. All right, have a look at this one. Improvisation is the simultaneous creation and performance of music. That's pretty cool. Creativity, isn't that a 21st century buzzword?
Should put it through the tester.
Have we got a tester on hand? Oh wait, we're not even ready yet. Whoa, here's that word integral again. And encouraged. See how nice the founding mothers and fathers were? It's a carrot, not a stick. We're encouraged to include improvisation. Where? In one of the side practice rooms for the saxophonists. No, as an integral part of both, stop the clock, both performance and composition activities. Wow, it's a tick. Thank you, syllabus tester. All right, and then let's have a think about the sorts of things people are doing in classrooms with their students. And now we're going to jump outside, hope you're okay. We're going to jump onto something that was in its infancy back in the day. It's a thing called the World Wide Web, which was only just. I remember in 1997 going to the Macquarie Uni. I said to my wife, I'm going to be home late. I was studying at Macquarie at the time. And I said to my wife, I'm going to be home late tonight because I'm going to have a look at the World Wide Web in the library. I went to the library and opened up, I don't know, Netscape or something. And what did I find? Well, not this, because this is recent, but have a look at this. oral skills examination is worth 30 marks. Now, so I've done some mathematics. So if the oral skills examination is worth 30 marks, and we read down the bottom, this is I love music. This has got to be the only syllabus, the only course in the whole HSC that's marked out of 110. How awesome is that? I love us. So check it out. So 30% of your marks for oral, and then the rest is worth, so performance, composition and musicology are worth 80%. Well, that's not even how it works, because it's out of 110. So I put this through a different machine, I put this through a calculator, and found out that actually oral actually just accounts for 27.27% of the overall mark. So my question today is, why spend more than 27.27% of your time on oral for 27.27% of your marks? So as a result of putting on our 21st century glasses and seeing the syllabus in a new way, we've come up with a different approach to teaching music at Northern Beaches Christian School. And it's really difficult to talk about and help people to understand. So instead, we've made this glossy video that we'd like to share with you. So the idea is that you can see the germ of an idea through collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and the other one come to fruition. Does anyone know what the other one is? All right, thank you. Questions at the end. All right, ready? This song was written and produced by students at Northern Beaches Christian School.
One last comment. I think you mentioned a new approach, but
Actually, good point. Sorry,
it's actually just the approach that the syllabus demands, and I think it's pretty. Actually, this is our version of it.
Wow, we're very old-fashioned. Turns out at Northern Beaches Christian School, we're doing everything in a very 20th century way, and we only just realised. Cool. All right, here's an old-fashioned music program.
Here we go. Check this out.
All right, so as ever in an About Music Education talk, we want to make this a conversation, which is why I always ask our presenters to make it a entertaining and quick 20-minute talk. So we've got plenty of time for some questions. If you haven't already thought them up, I will happily have a go at the first one. And then, of course, you can continue asking these guys face-to-face, if you're still friends, over some drinks afterwards. So I might, if I may, ask the first question. you talked about these, this crazy idea of integrating all of the teaching. So I just wondered what that 27 point whatever it was % of oral actually looks like. Is it 27% of sitting there doing past papers while they're playing in band and improvising a solo, or?
It's a great point. I guess we wanted to just promote a conversation about how many classrooms still have desks set up in rows where the majority of time is teacher directed and everyone's listening to the same piece of music at the same time, and the teacher's speaking over the top and maybe shushing people, please listen. And that in many places is the bulk of time spent in the classroom. And for us, it just doesn't make sense given the tools and resources we have, and how precious it is when people come together to be given the opportunity to make music together. And so that was my provocation, I guess. Do you want to talk about how we deal with it?
Yeah, I guess how that would look like in stage 6. On a practical level, if you're a student, you'd come up to stage, you'd present your analysis of your piece of music that you're performing. And so that might be, say it's anthropology, you might go, here are some rhythm changes, here's an analysis of rhythm changes, and you go into deep on the concepts of what you're actually performing. And then you might write a lead sheet, which would outline and direct your performance, which would be the composition and arranging. And then the musicology aspect would be researching jazz, and so you talk about what you've discovered in your research about the piece of music. And so for us, it's all about the gig, and then you work backwards from there.
And I think for us as well, in lots of places, if a student puts up their, sometimes they don't even put up their hand, but they say, what are we going to learn this for? And we start there. We think actually that's, and oftentimes teachers say, do it because that's what's in the syllabus, right? But we want to start with, what have we got to learn this for? As actually, that's where we start. And if you can't answer that for yourself, or if the teacher can't help you find the answer, there's not a great deal of value in it. So I guess for us, it's joining those dots for the student to actually see the value. And so we start with what's in it for me. So before you listen to a piece of music, your mindset is, what's in it for me?
Great. All right, do we have any questions? Jim?
Music 1, HSC, if I am a candidate and I choose to submit a composition, because that's what I really like to do, and I'll be improvising and experimenting and all those other two reasons, which, by the way, a composer can do while he or she is notating.
Very good.
But if I am not a dots-on-page type of composer, nevertheless, I still have to submit my composition as a score in score notation.
Today by 3 p.m.
Today by 3 p.m. I know it's an exciting time to be alive. How do you see a solution to what to me is the problem?
It's quite a quandary, and I think it's a legacy of a 20-year-old, almost 20-year-old syllabus, and
Yeah, but the exam and the syllabus are two separate things.
very good, very good. And yes, and in 2010 there was an opportunity to change, and so there was a small, which is when the oral exam, the performance core moved from 10% to 20%, and now we get a mark out of 110. So that was an opportunity there to address this, but nobody has. And I think that's an afternoon. I'd love to come back and get into that, because that's a deep hole. And I think it's one of the key issues that we face as music educators at the moment, is that we can have so much freedom up to that point, and we can make wonderful sounding music, and then we have to submit the score. So we try to integrate, we try to be as savvy as we can with students, but the Music 1 syllabus says we don't expect students to be literate in standard notation when they come in.
That's right, they don't have to read it, but they do have to be able to write it.
Yes.
So it's possible.
Yeah, so I have some deep issues around the assessment thereof. So I'm working my way through being comfortable with the syllabus, but I'm not comfortable there yet. It's a great point, and if I could show another thing that makes me scratch my head, so there's that one, and then the other one is you can play with a backing track in the HSC, but not a metronome. Now have a think about that. There you go. What if your backing track was a metronome?
It is timely indeed. I know there have been music teachers helping students turn MIDI into notation for the last 2 weeks. Some of my prac students have sent me the files. Another question in the corner?
Yes, you had a chart where you had 3 buy-ins before you go to the syllabus. Could you take each one of those and give some examples of how that's worked?
Yes. So at our, I'll take our school for example. We teach year 7 through 12, and so at our school we're isolated. We're in the middle of the national forest, or is it national forest? So before school rehearsals are problematic, after school rehearsals are problematic, and that, along with a bunch of other factors, means that we don't have a strong co-curricular or extracurricular program. And so when students come to us in year 7, they don't generally have a strong background in making music with people, for people. So that's where we start. So if we were in a different school where there was a strong extracurricular program, then that wouldn't be a focus for the classroom. So that's what I think I'm driving at there. So the community expectations and the students' needs kind of feed into each other. And also oftentimes communities will be, some communities love concert bands, other communities love string orchestras. It's very important, and the whole community identifies itself behind that. We don't have that. And so our approach is our students haven't chosen to blow or scrape. So we've got one last shot at them when they're beginning to become quite angsty, and there's all sorts of hormones. And my experience has shown that's a great time to get interested in rock and roll. So we give students the opportunity in our program to experience those sorts of instruments. So that's culturally and contextually sensitive. And so the other thing I think that the advice that I would give, given this is a seat of learning, is that you can be so overwhelmed about what you think you need to be as a music teacher when you get into a school. So the third point was the teacher's interests and abilities. And I think that's a great place to start. And so if we can find a way with those 3 parties where everybody's coming to work, coming to school, and we just call it, can we come to school and have a nice day? So it's a big driver for us, and I think if we can get everyone on the same page there, then we look at the syllabus and we say, how can the syllabus serve those 3 parties? Does that make sense? And then, I think the other thing I would say there, though, is as the experts, it's also I believe it's our job to promote growth in ourselves, the students, and the community. So we know stuff. We've been to university and some of us spent a life thinking about the breadth and depth of music. And so whilst we meet the community where they're at, it's also, I believe, part of the music educator's job to grow the whole community's aspirations and abilities and skills.
And that was referred to in the syllabus, I think, when it said talking about most students should continue music. And that many. And it wasn't, let's do the HSC and stop, it was continue. And so that idea of growth is, I think, in the syllabus.
Yeah, and so that actually was something that we didn't get to in the presentation, but our first principle is the medical idea of first do no harm. And so when you look at the purpose of the syllabus is to promote lifelong. So we think then when you come to the syllabus, one of the lenses you should have in is, before I program these activities, is this going to be harmful or helpful to promoting lifelong enthusiasm for a life of learning about music? And I think something I've said a great deal over the years is it's very difficult to get better if you quit. So once we start going, all right, what if by the end of year 8 it's okay if they don't know everything, but they're still in the game? We've got the rest of our lives to get on top of the content. But if we switch people off, which I believe we are for the most part in lots of places, you've got great statistics on who goes on. Well, nobody's going to get better in that scenario. So I'd love us to just pause before we program activities and get too concerned about content and go, well, let's go back to the purpose of the syllabus, which is to promote lifelong learning, which we can't do if we quit.
In and about music, one sec, Lockie, thank you, I've noted that. In and about music education first, we're going to take a question from Facebook. I asked the questioner on one of the Australian music teachers forums to actually form this as a question, but given that he didn't do that, I'm going to ask it anonymously just in case he doesn't want to be named with this. But he said, Brad is a good guy. We'll ignore that bit. But apparently you have the sweetest teaching setup in the Northern Beaches, one that most schools can't afford. Do you think this replicates when you're not in an independent school with plenty of funding?
I think I just come back to the community, the students, the abilities of the teachers, and that's how we've solved the problem at hand. But I don't think any of the concepts we've talked about today indicate that you have to spend loads of money. And so the idea of having a place where people can come together and work together and play music, that's what drives us. So everything in our room has been our way of bringing that to life. And so because we value collaboration, we sit around a plectrum table in groups of 7. We have a stage in the middle of our classroom because we value performance. None of that, and so for many, I've been in many clubs and pubs where the stage is milk crates and some planks. Yeah. So the idea of clustering people around, I don't see that that's a big deal. And also I think that in lots of schools, we're just not targeting, we're not making the money follow the vision. And so we've just been very fortunate to have a strong vision and then be able to have resources to put to that. But I think also often people walk in and go, wow, you must have just woken up one day and somebody popped this here for you. But we've been working towards what you see in that video since 2011. And it's been a staged process, but because we're very careful about what we buy, over 6 years now, we've been able to buy the right things at the right time. And I think there's loads of examples there of just different equipment than lots of schools have that do lots of jobs. So that's a long way of saying it's not about the money, it's about the way you have the money serve what you're trying to do. And also, I think in our room, we're trying to cater for 60 students at once. And so not everybody has to do that. So when you don't have to cater for 60 students, you can halve the amount of goods in the room. And finally, I think it's important to note that often when I talk to people, I hear, oh, I've got one of those in the storeroom. I'd like to have a few bucks every time I hear that. I have one of those in the storeroom. And they don't, why have they got one of those in the storeroom? It does my head in. Why did they buy it? Why isn't that purchase serving the vision? We don't have a storeroom, by the way, because I think, why would you put it in a storeroom? Well, if it's in a storeroom, that means you're not using it. So we don't have a storeroom. That's madness. And the next thing I often hear is, we've got to get a class set of those. And I think, why would you want to do that? So we don't have class sets of anything. In fact, we limit ourselves to 7. So by not buying 60 of anything, but limiting ourselves to 7 of one thing, and being careful about the way we use those resources, we can have more, well, not more resources, but just a greater variety of resources. And as we speak, schools around Australia, and maybe even the world, are building spaces and filling them with equipment just like ours, and schools from all different systems. So yes, I think you can even see online, you can see other people building similar things. But here's the thing, it's just a building, it's just stuff. It's not about that, it's about the vibe.
Lockie had a question.
Okay, just, you did answer this half my question, but I was going to say, the process you guys took before you had all this really awesome teaching and stuff, what was in the meantime, while you were kind of building this up, you just had more, still having the ready-based learning students or learning in laptops and then trying to move while you're still getting all this stuff in, or how did it begin?
It's an excellent question. And generally, like anything, it's hard. It's just hard. And starting in 2011, I worked 2 days a week. I had 2 afternoons per week to make this all happen. I was able to work with an architect, an acoustic engineer, and a building contractor. So this for me, this isn't the first time I've done this. This is version 5 or so for me. So this is the first time though that I didn't have to paint the walls and hammer the nails. So that was really cool. But 2 afternoons a week, and then for the next year, just 1 day a week. And at the end of every term, during this whole process, we actually built, over about 3 years, we built the space while the students were inside. And it was horrible. So each term, we would move everything out, and then the builder would make a new bit. And so that's a really great question, because things like this tend not to happen unless the budget is ridiculous. And whilst our budget was ridiculous, it wasn't that ridiculous, so we could just do it in the Christmas holidays. So there was that. And I think throughout this whole, but it turns out that's really great, because by taking, however many, it's been 5 years now, we've learned so much. And so it's that kind of feedback loop where until you've built the space, you don't know what the pedagogy is going to work in the space. Until you put the equipment in it, you don't know what's going to work, which then brings you back to thinking about the space again. So you have this constant thing going on every learning session. And so we've been really fortunate to get onto the lean startup concept, which I wish more people would talk about it in education contexts. The lean startup by a guy called Eric Ries, or Rise, depending on, or Ries, says build, measure, learn. And that's what we do. So he says, and the whole idea is, start with a minimum viable product. So that's what we do. You make something that's just good enough. You build it, you measure it, and you learn from it. So that's exactly what we've done. So we rapidly iterate so that and because we're on a rotation model, every lesson, in Year 7, for example, students engage with a resource. Different groups, we get to see groups 4 times engage with that one resource. Because it's a cyber resource, and because we team teach, we can observe their interaction the first time, and by the time the second group comes around, still in the same lesson, one of us can fix it on the fly. And so we, over the course of teaching Year 7, one lesson, we can use that resource. We could see students interacting with that resource 12 times. Is that right? 12 times. So by the time the last group gets to it, we've built, measured and learned, and we've gone from a minimum viable product to something that's pretty slick. And so all of those things working together means that we've made great strides, I think. But lots of people come to see us, which we love, by the way. We have a barista on site. And if you come to visit us, then we can access budgets and all sorts of things. So this is really good, and you're always welcome. But when people come, they think that we've created something that's perfect. And then they start to, they come from that, oh, if this is so perfect, look, I found something wrong over there, and there's something wrong over there. Yeah, there's all sorts of things wrong. And we hate lots of things. But every day, it's incrementally better as we build, measure and learn.
And that's because you wake up every morning so inspired by the syllabus.
Yeah, so I just make sure I read the syllabus at night before I put my head on the pillow.
Well, what a perfect circle.
Yeah, for sure.
50 minutes of perfection. Well, there you go. I think that's enough questions, but if you have any more, please join us for refreshments out in the atrium. And if you are free next Monday, we have our Teach Meet, where 5 teachers are going to show what they've been doing in their classroom that's worked particularly well for them, just for 10 minutes each, so it's a rapid fire session. Again, we'd love to see you there, but before we leave today, please thank once more Brad and Peter.